We'll start in from there. All right. Well, welcome to Rediscovering You. We're so glad that you're here. And Judy Peterson from Peterson Travel is our guest speaker tonight, and she is going to talk all about solo traveling, which Rebecca said she wants to know more about. So we are excited to have this conversation. So, Judy, what do you want to share with us?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so thrilled to be here. I've been a travel agent for 10 years. I work out of my home, and I've been on several trips around the world, every continent except Antarctica. I'm going there in January, though, so it'll be fun to add that to my resume. And I just thought I could speak about some of my own experiences traveling solo, and then talk about different ways of traveling and safety tips. So I hope that sounds good.
Sounds perfect.
Right.
Sounds perfect. And Antarctica sounds really exciting.
Maybe I'll have to come back and talk about that after the trip. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, my trips traveling solo include three different kinds of trips. One is, just traveling by myself, taking my car and going to Bayfield, Wisconsin is one of the places. And the reason I did that is because this is when I was younger. I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have a lot of time. So I figured I'll just drive up there. And I don't know if you know where Bayfield is, but it's not too far from Duluth. You just head over the border into Wisconsin, and it's about 50 miles away, and it's on Lake Superior. So there are sailboat races, and there were an apple festival. And there were some bars and little stores that you could go into. And it was easy to meet people even on the streets because they were very friendly, small, quaint little town. And it wasn't expensive. That was back when gas was a lot less than it is now. But you do have to be careful when you take a trip like this because you're not traveling with other people. So we'll get into the safety tips a little bit later, but traveling unescorted is probably the least safe, but once you get the hang of it, you'll know what to be looking for and to use your gut and you'll know the safety tips, and you can still have a wonderful trip. My second trip that I want to talk about is Cancun, and Mexico is a really popular place to go because it's easy to get to and it's not too expensive. And someone gave me a ticket. They couldn't use it. And it was at the time where you could change the name on a ticket. So, it's been a while. And I didn't know anybody, but one of my friends knew a couple girls that were going to be there at the same time I was going to be there. So that was very helpful to me. And, I got there where they were staying and their phone numbers and called them. And I was at a hotel that had a happy hour at 4:00. I invited them over. We met other people, and there was these two people from Canada, sister and brother, and we got to be good friends with them, and we did a lot of things with them. And we even did an excursion to Chichen with them. And with the girls, I also went to a Mexican fiesta. So it's good to ask advice. And this girl that I knew locally told me about these girls, she was a travel agent. So talk to travel agents, talk to people that travel to these destinations regularly, get advice about where to go, what's safe, and stick in a group if you can. And going to a happy hour in your hotel where the concierge and the desk people is a safe place to meet other people. The thing about traveling solo is you have to be okay with talking to strangers. And people say, oh, I'm not very comfortable with that. But, just start talking about, oh, have you been here before? What do you like to do when you're here? How long have you been here? What other places have you been to? If you just strike up a conversation about travel, a lot of people like to share their experiences. And the third trip I'd like to talk about is a cruise. About a year ago, I was on a cruise and I was by myself. And you're probably thinking, well, why would you want to go by yourself? Well, it was a time with some of my friends were traveling. My husband was busy, he couldn't go. And I got a really, really good deal on this cruise. And I thought it was at the end of COVID, or what we thought was going to be the end of COVID. I wanted to see how things had changed on cruises. And I thought, it's my birthday, I'll go celebrate my birthday. And I have to say, I really like traveling solo on a cruise ship because there are so many things to do, and it's really easy to meet people. So for example, they had a tea in the afternoon, and not everybody likes teas, but it is a good place to go to meet other people in a safe environment, because you go to the dining room and they have, you know, different scones and little tea sandwiches, and they sit you at a table with maybe 6 people that you don't know, but you're all talking about your traveling experiences and what you've been doing on the ship and all kinds of things. So you get to know people quite well when you're at the tea. Also, when you're dining, you can ask, they'll ask you, for breakfast especially, do you want to sit with someone or do you want to sit by yourself? And if you sit with other people, again, you can strike up conversations, learn about them, make friends. And when I go on a trip and I'm with someone else, another gal, I usually try to befriend the people that are single. And I think a lot of people do that because, you know, it's a little uncomfortable to be a solo traveler, and it's kind of fun to be in a group, and gives them the option. So the other things on the cruise ship, a lot of them have networking events for singles. They might have like a little bar mixer. They'll have dances, and a lot of the dances are line dances, so you don't feel too uncomfortable dancing without a partner. And of course, there's the hot tub. And I did go in the hot tub, and there were 3 other girls there, and 2 of them were singles. You know, they were the same deal as I was. It was an inexpensive cruise. They wanted to get out, see what was going on, and we had a great conversation. There's the casino. A lot of people are playing, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. I mean, you can, you know, make sure that you're at a machine that is not eating up all your money, but you can watch what even you can walk around and just watch what people are doing and how they're playing. And the people that get so excited about winning, it's kind of fun to be around them because, you know, that exuberance kind of rubs off on you. So I've met some people in the casino as well. Sometimes it's going to be awkward on the cruise ship though, because you're maybe dining for dinner and they don't always set you with another group. And so you're going to have some free time while you're waiting for your food. I bring a book with me so I don't feel so awkward. And I had my book about Diary of Anne Frank. I was engrossed in that, and I kept that handy before I got my food, and I felt much more comfortable. Does anybody have any questions about the cruise and being solo on the cruise ship?
No.
Okay. Just want to check in before we get to the end.
Okay.
They have a lot of excursions, and you can befriend somebody on an excursion. I was on one where it was kind of a beach excursion and sat by other people that were on the bus to the beach, you know, had some good conversations. So it's good. It's easy to meet people on excursions because you're all there for the same purpose, kind of like-minded people. So just to recap, the 3 different ways are going by yourself and not being in an escorted group, and then being on an escorted trip that would have a group leader and a bus driver. And so you've got some safety, how should I say, people there to help you out. And the 3rd one is a cruise. And I have to say, one of the places I met the most people was at the airport, because I bought the transfers to go from the airport to the cruise ship. And I had to wait at least an hour to get that bus. And everybody was standing in line, just chatting away. So I met a lot of people just starting out at the airport. But I have to recommend that if you're going on a cruise out of Miami, that you don't take the transfers, just take an Uber, because you'll get there faster and you don't waste all that time in the airport waiting for your transfer. So one little tip there. As far as safety, you're going to, trust your gut, first of all. Get a lot of advice from people. I suggest getting a travel agent if you're going to be on a tour or a cruise. And first of all, travel light. When I travel, I usually just take a carry-on bag and a backpack. I'm not going to be having both of my hands pulling two different luggages so somebody can grab my shoulder bag. You have to be careful about being cognizant of what's going on around you and being able to protect yourself in case somebody came by real quick. I've never had trouble just taking a roller bag. Even I went on a 2-week trip to Costa Rica, just used the roller bag for a carry-on, and I took some soap and washed my clothes, but it worked fine. And you get used to it. You wear your heavier shoes. I always wear my tennis shoes, and then I take another pair that's more dressy, and then maybe a pair of sandals. And then I coordinate my outfits. I maybe take black as the main color, and then spice it up with some colorful tops, some scarves, and you can get by with a lot less clothes than you think you can. I usually start out putting a bunch of outfits together, then I realize, oh, don't need this, and I take it out, and then I have enough room for what I have left. But I probably start out with more than I need and then wean it down. It's a lot easier to unpack if you don't have a big suitcase too. When you're at the hotel and you leave, I would leave a card with where you're going if you're not on an escorted tour. And then also check in with the concierge, make sure that where you're going is safe and they know that where you're going. Don't take a wallet or a backpack with you. Try to conceal, you might have a little fanny pack, one of those travel ones, underneath your blouse. So it conceals what you have in there, and just take as little as you can. I would not take all my ID. So I would take maybe your driver's license and a copy of your passport, and then some money and your cell phone. But do not take all your money, and then put your money in a safe place in your hotel room. So you might have it in your suitcase, but put it in 3 different places in your suitcase, and maybe roll it in some socks in one corner and another zipper area in another corner. So, or in the safe if you're comfortable with using the safe. And also keep a copy of your contacts on a piece of paper. So your friends, your credit cards, the police, the embassy. So if you happen to lose your cell phone, you've got those numbers and you can call, stop your credit card numbers, call your friends, say, hey, I need some help. You might need to have them wire you money, or, make sure that all your credit cards are canceled. So take that list with you. Maybe not carry it with you, but have it in your bag at the hotel. And then when you leave the hotel, take a business card from the hotel desk. So it has the name of the hotel and the address. And the reason is, it's easy to forget, number one. Number two, if you're in a country where they don't speak the same language, they might not understand you if you need a ride back to the hotel. So you can just show them the card, they look at it, they can read it, and they can get you back to the hotel easily. And then I would even write your room number on the back. And that's because if you're on an escorted tour, they're going to be probably going to a different hotel almost every night. And they're going to have a different room number, and you might forget. So if you write it on the business card, at least you have a record of what room number that is. Or take a picture. A lot of people take a picture of the room number on their camera so they can look at their phone. and see which one it is. Don't have too many drinks. You need to be cognizant of what you're doing at all times. I think that's true anytime you travel, but that reminder is helpful. And be, careful of all the people that are around you. If you see somebody that looks like they need help, don't, bother to help them. There are other people that are in groups that can help them. If you need to get help, get help. Let's say you need directions. I usually try and go into a store and ask somebody in a store for directions. Maybe none of the stores are open. I would go try and look for a family and ask them questions first. I would go to a couple second and a single person third if there's nobody around. And don't worry about being rude if you feel like somebody's, trying to take advantage of you. I was in Montreal, Canada, and Montreal has a system of tunnels that connect a lot of their stores together. And it's kind of like the Skyway, only it's underground, and it has kiosks and it has little shops around. And this woman that was kind of dressed in an like a character outfit came up to me and she kind of grabbed my arm and she goes, Madame, and then she was talking in French and I had no idea, but I didn't like her grabbing my arm. And I just kept looking at her in the face and going, Madame. And I was talking loud because there was a kiosk right next to us, just about, and they could hear everything. They could see that I wasn't comfortable. So after I was, said it about 5 times, I just, ripped my arm away and got away and just left quickly. But I was really not comfortable with that woman. You just don't know what people have up their sleeve. And if the lady needed directions or something, there are a lot of people, like I said, at the kiosk, she could have asked for help. She didn't have to look at me, a foreigner, and try and get help. Has anybody else had any experiences traveling safety-wise that they want to share? Thinking about things?
Well, I just went to Mexico last year. And when I got there, I waited for my luggage and it never came to the place that it was supposed to. And it totally disappeared. And I was now in Mexico with no luggage.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, yes. And I'm a large woman, and so there's not a lot of places to find clothes in Mexico for someone like me. So that was quite an experience. And fortunately, I was with a group of women, and they were very generous and helpful in the process. But, I ended up having to buy men's shirts and flip-flops because I only had the clothes I had on.
Yes.
And that was how it was. And
Right.
It was quite an experience. So
did you ever get your suitcase back?
No.
You never did. Oh my gosh.
Never did? Oh.
That is terrible. I know that when my last trip was to Egypt, and we had flown internationally, but then when we were in Egypt, we flew from Cairo to Alexandria. No, not Alexandria, I think Luxor, and then we took a cruise ship and we went to Aswan and then flew from Aswan back to Cairo. So on the last little flight that we had back to Cairo, we got off the plane and we went to the luggage area and everybody's got their suitcase and one guy did not have his. And we waited and we waited and we nothing came out. So we had a person that was helping us. He was kind of coordinating the trip and the airplane things and the bus. And so they have luggage people there to help, but there was nobody at the luggage station. It was like it was so early. It was like we got in there at 8 o'clock in the morning. It left at 7 and we got there at 8 and then we had the whole day to do whatever we wanted. And so we had to wait and wait. And so finally we had to go to another area where the luggage people were. And they, we suspected, because there was another bag there that was similar to one that was his, but it wasn't his. So we thought, oh, somebody's bag is here that took his. So the luggage person, tried to contact them, and it wasn't the number that was on the luggage tag. So always make sure that your number on your luggage tag is your right number. And I also suggest on the luggage, put like a scarf that's unusual so people will know that it's theirs or not. Something that's very different. Well, anyway, the luggage person tracked down whose it was. They had in their system, they had the phone number, they called the number. It was somebody that was in another part of the airport, like a different, it was be like Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 in Minneapolis. So it was like we were in Terminal 1 and the person was in Terminal 2. So they had to go to Terminal 2, take back the luggage that was hers, and then bring it back. And she was on her way to Istanbul. So if they hadn't caught this, it would have been a big problem, because we needed to go. We were leaving for Minneapolis the next day, or they were actually, these people were from Boston, but yeah, for the United States. Yeah, you have to really keep your eye on that bag. And a lot of times it's not your fault, because the luggage people get it messed up. And, but usually people get their bags down. They usually get their bags back. I'm so surprised you didn't get it back.
Never
so
a
sorry about
word.
that.
Yeah, never a word. So I want to welcome Stephanie.
Okay.
She's joined us, but I don't know if you're able to unmute or anything. Stephanie, we'd love to see you, and we're glad you're here. So,
thank you. I'm just my internet is not good, so trying to do video it's too much for it.
Okay. So where would you like to travel, or what kinds of questions do you have, Stephanie?
I don't know that I have any. I think she covered a lot of what I was interested in. So
well, good. Have you traveled solely or as a solo traveler in the past?
I have. I've gone on kind of organized trips with other people, other group, but people that I didn't know.
Sure.
And then got to know them while I was on the trip, but haven't done any like true solo traveling other than that.
Okay. All right. And Rebecca, where are you interested in going?
My daughter and I are attempting to figure out where to go this summer. We have narrowed it down to 2 places. We either want to go to London or we want to go to Iceland. I know, 2 very diametrically opposed places. Before COVID, we were supposed to go to London in June of 2020. Of course, that didn't happen. So that all got canceled. And so, we've done small little trips, but we haven't really done anything big since. We went to New York City in 2018. Is that right? Something like that. So, we were, do another big trip. And so now we're trying to figure out, do we want to do, more of, because you go to Iceland, you have to drive and you have to move around. When you go to London, you get there, you park yourself, and that's what you do. You do,
Sure.
So we're trying to figure out which one we want to do, and we're kind of at a crossroads right now. Not that we can't do the other one later. It's just right now.
Yeah, that's an option. So yeah, you have to look at the pros and cons to all of it and determine what would be the right at this time.
Right.
The nice thing about Iceland is it's not as far away as London is. So depending on how much time you want to spend in the air, it's going to be closer. It's probably, when you get to Iceland, it's expensive, but getting there is not expensive. It's just, the cost of living is really high. So in London, it's probably, you're going to have, I mean, right now Europe exchange rate's probably pretty good for us. So you're going to have a good bang for your buck right now.
That's good to know. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Airfare is a little pricey, but when you get there, I think it's, that's a different story.
Right.
So yeah, and then, in terms of solo traveling, the group traveling has always intrigued me. There are just so many groups out there. It's not even funny. I mean, just,
Yes.
women only, you can go to this place, you can go to that place, you this tour group, that tour group. And I see that it's a good way to travel, because I have some friends that actually, they do that. They travel with these groups and things. But it's so overwhelming to do the research, and you go, I don't know which one's good. I don't know which one's bad, so.
Sure. Well, what people usually do when they call me is they know if they want to go someplace warm. A lot of times, if you're from Minnesota, you want to get out of the winter, and they go someplace warm, and then they have a budget. So I can narrow it down for you according to if you want a warm place or you want a, a cold place, and what your budget is. And that it's good to have a travel agent, because we wean through so much of the stuff that you have if you're not in the business, it is overwhelming. There's so much stuff on the internet, and there are so many escorted tours from different travel companies. So I do highly recommend using an agent to at least start out with. And we try and keep in mind I'm going to give you a hint as far as what time to travel. Now, I don't know your daughter, if she's going on to college or not, but she might have only certain times that she could go. But there are what's called shoulder seasons. Yeah. And that's the time of usually from about March through May in the spring, and then September, October, November in the fall. That's less expensive, because I know you've got some of those spring breakers in there, and that gets more expensive. But other than that, there are less people traveling during that time. So the prices of the airlines go up according to the number of people on the airplane. So the more people on the airplane, the higher the price is going to be. And that's so true with even hotels. If they have more bookings, their prices go up as well. So book as far in advance as you can, because you have a better chance of getting a good price.
Yeah.
So Judy, what would be the top 3 things to consider in picking an agent to work with?
Well, first of all, I would call a couple agents and just talk with them and just see how you feel about them. I think it's always good to have a personality that matches yours, and that so that would be one thing, personality, somebody that's knowledgeable, and somebody that's been in the business for, at least 2 or 3 years, and ask them what they specialize in, if they have a specialty or not. Some people specialize, some people don't. So it's, I think you'll get a feel for who you like and trust. And some people will charge you if you call them and say, oh, well, how much is it going to cost me to go here? Well, it does take us an amount of time to go through all this information and to put a quote together. So they'll say, we'll charge you a planning fee of $25 or $50. And then if you decide to book with me, that'll go towards the trip. And if you don't plan with me, then I just get to keep it. I usually don't do that, but at times I do, depending upon the situation. If it's very complicated type of trip, I'll probably ask for a little upfront.
Okay. All right. And should you be checking to see the places they've personally traveled to?
Well, not so much. It doesn't hurt to ask them that question, because they're going to know probably a lot more if they've been there. But if they haven't been there, that doesn't mean that they're still not going to give you good advice, because there are a lot of things you learn in the travel industry. And we have meetings with our suppliers, maybe once a quarter. So Sun Country will get us together for like a breakfast meeting or a dinner meeting, and they'll talk about, these are the things that are changing with Sun Country, and then they'll have some of the hotels that they work with come and talk about the hotels, and it could be on Puerto Vallarta, it could be on, it's the destinations where they travel to. So we have those types of things, and then we have there are a lot of webinars out there, and I couldn't tell you how many there are. Every day I get a notice, we're having a webinar on this and that and the other thing. So there's a lot of training available for us. And then most of us work through a host agent. And what that means, it's kind of having like a broker for real estate. So when you work as a realtor, let's say I work for Coldwell Banker, and my boss is, he's the broker. So you work with them and they get part of your commission when you sell a house. And in the travel business, you have what's called a host agency. So they've got the training for you. They have credentials, their credentials that you use. And then because they do the training and they have the credentials, you have to give them a cut in your commission. So very similar, but you still have, there's so much training out there. It's unbelievable.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Well, I've been on a cruise. I've only gone on one cruise. I'm not a big fan of cruises because you just look at water all day.
Some people do. Some people are in the hot tub, in the casino, going to the teas, going to bingo, doing karaoke, going to entertainment.
Well, I went on one that was it was about learning about the wheat belly diet. And so we had training all day with the founder of the Wheat Belly program. It was very interesting. And I had a lot of fun with it. But the thing that struck me about it, and I didn't know anything about this, but it was, be sure to bring extra money along, because towards the end of the cruise, they start promoting their next thing, and you can get great buys if you like cruises. I'm going, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's true. And usually they always have a promotion. So they'll say 200, if you book now, $200 off your next cruise, or if, but the cruise, I'm going to just tell you about the cruise line. They are the most economical right now. And the reason is people just haven't gotten back to cruising at 100% like they were before COVID, because they're still a little scared of, being on a cruise ship in such an enclosed area. That's
Sure.
one of the things. And the second thing is there are 33 new cruise ships coming out, and they all have a huge capacity. So there's all this extra inventory that there wasn't like last year. So they are really having a lot of deals. Like I looked online today, and Celebrity had 75% off the second guest. And Norwegian is always having a sale, like cruise and get free gratuities and a drink package and Wi-Fi, and sometimes an airline deal. And Viking, they have their free airfare promotion, not all the time, but they have a lot of promotions. So it's an economical way, especially if you can wait for those bargains.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just stunned at the bargains even being available at the, as we came through the cruise. That was really surprising to me, and I would not have thought to think about that, when I just first went on the cruise, and probably because I'd never been before. But it was interesting. It was very
and you're living in Florida now, so you probably have access to a lot more cruises than you did when you were in Minnesota.
Probably.
It's a lot cheaper
across the state, however.
Well, Tampa, I don't know if our Tampa is, but they have a lot of cruises that go to Tampa.
Sure.
And you can probably drive there, but there's an extra cost when you have to drive, because then you have to pay for parking.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's a few add-ons with cruises.
Yeah.
All the gratuities that you have to pay. Usually it's about 14% of the price of the trip.
Okay,
And then if you want to do extra dining, if you want to play bingo, if you want to go to the casino, or if you want to, have extra drinks, or a lot of people will buy a drink package, but if you're not a drinker, it's really not economical to do that.
sure.
I don't recommend it, but yeah, you do have to take a little extra money.
Yeah. Well, it just was interesting to me to experience that. So it was kind of fun. What are there places that travel agents put together for tours within the United States, the 48 states?
There are a lot of tours in the United States. I mean, for example, there's trips to the national parks.
Mhm.
If you want to go to California to go see wine country, I mean, this is not the United States, but going to Canada is not very far. So there's trips to Ottawa and to Quebec City and Montreal and Toronto. You can go to Myrtle Beach for a week, Hilton Head, Charleston, like San Antonio. There are a lot of trips there, and there's big one is their balloon festival. I mean, New Mexico has trips. I mean, there's a trip everywhere, believe me. If you want to go somewhere, I mean, all the major cities, there are trips there.
Okay, well, that's
Chicago,
interesting to know.
New York, Boston, Maine.
I always thought it would be fun to go to New York during Christmas week, then see the windows and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, but I always thought it would be fun.
Yes. My daughter went to school for one semester in New York, and so I had to go pick her up right around Christmas time. So I was there during the Christmas season with all the lights and Rockefeller Center area, and yeah, in the stores, Macy's, in the windows. It was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca, what else do you want to know? What to pack or?
Yeah, I can do that part. So
Okay.
when you're traveling internationally, so as a travel agent, when you put a trip together for someone, do you advise them on what they need, to go to whatever country they're going to, passports, visas, immunizations? Do you do that part? Do you look at certain, when you're in a certain country, do you look at certain areas and hotels, or do you go by what the person may want? I mean, some people like to stay in big chains. Some people like to stay in, boutique hotels, and some people like to, it runs the gamut. And I was just wondering kind of how do you work with a client on figuring out what they want, what they need, and making sure, as you said, making sure they're safe, making sure they're, nothing happens, because you're international. Sometimes things happen. So
Yes. Well, I always find out from the client, have they been there before? And, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? And then kind of get a feel for them, what they've experienced, and try and go from there. So maybe they're more comfortable with a, group escorted tour. And there are a lot of those, and some of them are very economical. So I usually try and start with that. And then if they say, oh, well, we have an idea, we want to spend, the whole time in Paris, and there's so much to do around there. So we want to go to Notre Dame, and we want to go to Versailles and the catacombs. And so then I'll say, well, do you want to stay in a hotel, or do you want to stay Airbnb, or do you, what's your, again, a lot of it is run by the price. What's your price point?
Yeah.
And So it's just kind of coming together, what are the ideas? I can give you this, or I can give you that, and just getting a feel from the client of what they want. And if the nice thing about the escorted tours, they have done this a million times.
Yeah.
They've got everything down pat. This is the visa you need. These are, this is where you go to find out if you need any vaccines or what their entrance requirements are. And it's really slick. I mean, I have all of the same connections that they have. So I would also, even if you didn't do escorted, I would tell you what you need, how to
Correct.
do it,
Yeah.
help you with it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Try and
yeah.
get as much, what to wear, what the temperature is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, because for example, a place like Iceland, you could do a tour, but it's such a, I don't want to say it's a small country, but it's not a very large country, and plus they speak English, so it's a little easier to navigate as without going on a group. But there are also excursions that you can do, little tours and things that you as a travel agent may know about, or may know, you can go and do this or that, or and so I mean that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to decide right now, is how much do I want to take, because when I went to New York City, I planned it all, I did it all, but I also gear it towards my daughter, who she needs downtime, she needs this, she needs that. So I was sort of the mini travel agent, and it worked out fine. But it's really hard being responsible for more than one person. And so in some respects, having a travel agent sort of get you over that hump and get everything planned for you is
right.
It might be nice to actually not have to worry about that.
It takes a lot of the responsibility off of you.
Yeah.
And, I've looked at Iceland for several people, and there's a lot of options. I mean, you can stay in the south and just do the things there.
Yeah.
Again, how comfortable are you with driving, in another country and that kind of thing? You have to find that out from the client. But, and what are your goals? Do you want to see the Northern Lights? Do you want to just see the volcanic areas? Do you want to go to the northern area as well? So we, have that conversation, find out what exactly you're looking for before we come up with a plan. And then, usually there's some, well, I like this and I don't like that. And so we can change it up. It doesn't have to be just the way the travel agent originally planned it. You can change it around.
Right.
So Judy, what about tours where you can meet potential romantic encounters? Is that something that,
well, I think what you're talking about is single mixers, maybe somebody that's
could be. We're a group of women going through divorce.
Right. Yes,
and
exactly.
so
and you're looking for that. Sometimes you're looking for that. Let's put it that way.
or practice, if nothing else.
Yes. I know that the cruise ships, they do have specialty nights for singles, so they're really focused on that. There are some travel companies that are focused on singles, not so much on, I don't think they're trying to make a love connection, but I feel like anytime you're on a trip and you're meeting people, there's always that possibility. So I just think that, traveling is a good place to meet people. You're meeting people from all over the world, and you're getting to see a lot of things. And if you're on a trip together, you have things in common. So I just think travel in general is a good place to meet somebody. I did research a few agencies that were focused on singles. And I don't know if you're interested in this, but there's a company called Exodus Travel. And all of these companies, they're going to try and put roommates together. If you want to have a roommate, you don't want to have to pay a big supplement. They'll try and match you. So one is called Exodus Travels, and there's another one, For the Love of Travel, Overseas Adventure Travel, and Wild Women Expeditions. Maybe that's the love one. I don't
There
know.
you There are so many tours now that for just women. I've noticed that. It's just, I think it seems to have exploded. It's just, women that they just want to go, and single, they don't necessarily always go with friends or whatever. It's amazing how many of groups out there now that are doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
don't you think that follows the thing of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
I don't know. I think that I don't know. I think women are probably more open to travel solo than men for some reason. I don't know. I always see guys traveling together. Unless they're on a business trip, they'll be separate. But I don't know. They have a common denominator. Like, we're going to go on a golf trip, or we're going on a kayaking trip, or it's something, and they have their buddies and they like to go together. Women, I think they just, I don't know. We are a very social group, but I'm not sure. I know that there are groups online for solo women too, they're meetup groups. And I have a lot of friends that are single and always looking for people to travel with. So if you ever need help, finding someone to travel with, I might be able to give you a recommendation, because I know people tell me where they want to go and then they say, oh, but I don't have anybody to go with. So I always have that in the back of my mind.
Right.
How fun.
There are probably, I think there are probably cruises out there that are for singles. The whole cruise, I think, is probably for singles. And there are probably some escorted tours too. I just don't happen to know. I mean, the ones that I read off for you, I know they're for people that are traveling singly, but they're not like a love, connection kind of thing.
Sure. Mhm.
So there are probably some escorted ones as well, but I'm not sure what those might be.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that you actually look some of them up.
And there's a lot of cruise ships too that have the studio cabin, so you don't have to pay that extra supplement for over and above.
Nice.
No, yes. So Norwegian has a lot of cabins like that. Some ships have a few, but Norwegian has a lot. So if you want to travel on a cruise ship by yourself, I would go with Norwegian, and then Virgin and Holland and Royal Caribbean has a few too. So,
Okay, what about riverboat cruises? Have you had any experience with those?
I've been on a riverboat cruise. It was called Uncruise. I had a blast. It's very small, which is really nice. I don't think there were any. There might have been one person on that trip that was a solo, but it was a trip for travel agents and people that were connected with the travel business to get to know that cruise company better.
Sure.
So since you had a common interest, it was easy to talk about it. They're very popular in Europe, of course, the Danube, the Rhine. Viking, I think, has opened up to, well, they've been doing a lot of river cruises for a long time. They're very popular. Amawe is another one. More and more are going to the river cruises. And they're more intimate, they're smaller. The only thing about a river cruise in Europe is that sometimes the water level is not high enough. So if it's not, then what they'll do is they'll take you on land and then bus you to where it's deep enough again, and then you go back on the cruise ship and then you keep cruising. But there could be that little hiccup, but a lot of people don't mind that.
Okay, what about the Orient Express?
the Orient, there are a lot of, I mean, there are cruises there and they're good.
No,
I
I'm
haven't-
talking about the train. The
Oh, the
Orient.
train. I don't know anything about that. Don't know.
Okay. I always thought I should do that, but I didn't really think we should have a murder or anything. We should just have a trip.
Yeah, I think trains are becoming more and more popular, and especially in the United States.
Uh-huh.
There's the, I'm trying to think, Amtrak,
Mhm.
you know, from here to the West Coast, and then Amtrak also from like San Francisco down to San Diego. That's also another good route. So,
Sure.
you know, if you don't know if you like trains or not, and you just want to give it a try, you know, I would do one in California.
I had another friend, Louise Griffin, who has spoken with this group. She and her significant other did the Canadian mountain one.
Yes.
And just enjoyed it so much. They were highly recommending it. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
but I
That
would
would-
think
So
that would be
picturesque.
I think that would be really interesting. And for a solo woman, it could be a lot of fun just practicing your introduction skills and conversation skills with whomever is sitting around not talking to anybody.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Well, this has been great, Judy. Thank you so much. Rebecca, you brought all the good questions. So,
Yeah, because I'm in planning mode right now. So
yeah, I bet.
Would you like me to put my name and contact information in the chat?
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know, as I said, you know, we're trying to figure this out, and you know, part of my issue is I have that credit from Delta from 2020 that I haven't used yet for my flight. So
Sure.
I got to use it. I got to do it because it's gonna,
Yeah.
you know, they extended it to 2023, so I got to use it.
I know there's so many people that, you know, I mean, are in the same situation, and it's tough. I mean, if you had, you know, something planned for 2019 and 2020, and then you didn't use it, now you're going to have to stuff it all in 1 year, and oh my gosh,
Yeah.
And you know, things could have changed. You're physically could be different now than it was back then.
Right. Well, and also, you know, I, you know, booked, you know, the trip to London, and I used 160,000 miles
Mhm.
to upgrade it all. And I have no idea where those miles went.
Oh, no. Well, they should, usually what they do with the miles is they give you those back to you. Did you ever see if they went back?
No, they did not go back.
Oh, yeah, you need to have someone check on
Yeah.
that for you.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, because I saved them up for years knowing that we were going to take this big trip. So I
Yeah.
was like, but you know, I'm hoping since it's Delta that I won't have too many issues with them. You know how that goes.
Yes.
I think Delta's pretty good, but you're going to have an issue sometime along the line with Delta. So the thing is, you have to keep on top of it all the time. I know I had a client that she planned a cruise, and it was a Delta Air to the cruise, and couldn't go. Somebody in her family was sick, and she had to stay back, and she didn't get the airline money back. And so I said, I can help you with that. You know, you have to have the doctor's statement of why you couldn't go on the trip. And I had to go way up to the top of the ladder to get
food chain, yeah.
but I did that. I mean, that's what a travel agent does for you. You know, you go the extra mile.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and they're the ones, you know, who canceled the trip. I mean, it wasn't, you know, because it was, it was June 2020. So, you know, they actually can't, of course, they canceled it because nobody was flying. And so, and then we went to Maine this past summer, and I just didn't want to mess with trying to figure out at that point, because I know what's going to happen is I'm going to call them. I have to spend all day on the phone.
Yes.
So that's what I've got to have a day where I can actually do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
Well, again,
challenging.
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun talking to you.
Yep.
I love your questions. Don't hesitate to call me or
okay.
email or text me if you have others.
All right.
great.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Judy. Thank you, Rebecca, for being here, and
Thank
we
you.
will see you next week.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.